Do you want to know how Karmic Dice works in Baldur's Gate 3 and how it affects your gameplay and dialogue choices? If so, you're in the right place. Hello there. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between Karmic Dice and Natural Dice and help you decide which one is better for you. Karmic Dice is a feature within Baldur's Gate 3 that aims to prevent frustrating streaks of very low or very high rolls in a row. It is enabled by default and affects attack rolls, saving throws, and dialogue rolls. Some players prefer to turn it off and rely on the natural randomness of the dice, while others like to have it on for a more balanced experience. But how does Karmic Dice actually work? And does it really make a difference? To find out, I created a custom character with these stats. And as this character, I thought this imp. And as a control mechanism, I use this character to run the same conversational dice roll 100 times with both Karmic Dice on and Karmic Dice off. The roll was an investigation check that required a 10 or higher on a 20-sided die. Let's see what the results were. As you can see, there is not a noticeable difference between Karmic Dice and Natural Dice in my control test. This is as expected. However, I did have fewer extreme rolls when Karmic Dice was on compared to Karmic Dice being off, and more rolls that were in the range of the average roll, i.e. 10. To quantify this difference, I collected some stats from my gameplay and created an interactive dashboard where you can see more details and analysis on Karmic Dice versus Natural Dice. Let's compare the control to the test, where I allowed this imp to attack me 100 times with Karmic Dice on and 100 times with Karmic Dice off. Here are some of the stats that I found. As you can see, the average roll for Karmic Dice being on is slightly higher than that of Natural Dice. You can further see that the Karmic Dice success rate is also higher. However, the spread of the data, i.e. the standard deviation, is about equal. Now what's really interesting here is that when you compare Karmic Dice to Natural Dice, there is no statistically significant difference. The success rate is also slightly higher with Karmic Dice than with Natural Dice, but not by much. If you want to see the details behind this dashboard, you can find the link in the description below. So what does this mean for your gameplay and dialogue choices? Well, of course it depends on your personal preference and playstyle. If you like to have more control and consistency over your rolls, you might want to use Karmic Dice. If you like to have more randomness and excitement over your rolls, you might want to use Natural Dice. Now, the one thing that is a disadvantage with Karmic Dice on is that it strips out the meaning behind specialization. So there is one disadvantage there when you go with this default setting. So what about the impact to the psychology behind players? In my last video, I explained the gambler's fallacy and how it affects our perception of dice rolls. If you haven't watched it already, you can find the link in the description below. As covered in my previous video, the gambler's fallacy is the tendency to think that past events affect future outcomes that are independent of them in reality. So, for example, if you roll a die several times and get low numbers, you might think that you are due for a high number soon. However, with Natural Dice, this is not true because each roll is independent and has the same probability. With Karmic Dice on, the gambler's fallacy is not entirely false, as past events do have some influence on future events. This was pointed out by commenters in my last video. Now I'd like to take some time here to thank the previous commenters on my last video. I really appreciate the feedback and hope this video adds to that conversational piece. In this video, I've shown that the difference between Karmic Dice and Natural Dice is not as statistically significant as people perceive, and it does not guarantee success or failure. This doesn't take away anything from the feeling that there is a significant difference between Karmic Dice and Natural Dice. And I hope that this video gives you a flavour of what Karmic Dice is and its intended effects. So what about you? Do you use Karmic Dice or not, and why? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video about Karmic Dice in Baldur's Gate 3. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.
This is the pool that thing came from. The parasite now writhing behind your eye.